Hello, friends. Good morning. Today, the topic of our discussion is role of evidence in civil and criminal proceedings. As you must have seen earlier question papers, this question is being asked for a 12 marks or 15 marks as a broad question. So, I have tried to narrate most important points of difference between application of evidence law in civil cases and criminal cases. So, first of all, the role of evidence in general is the same in civil and criminal tribunal. However, there are certain exceptions. The doctrine of estoppel admission applies in civil cases only, whereas the provisions relating to confessions are peculiar in civil proceedings. In short, the Indian Evidence Act has a very strict application in criminal laws, and somewhere it has a little bit of scope in a civil law. Due to different nature of civil and criminal proceedings, the rule of evidence applicable on them may be different. As you can see, the criminal laws are being governed on the basis of criminal procedure code. Civil laws are being governed on the basis of civil procedure code. So the rule of application of the evidence is a different in different proceedings. The civil case is one instituted by an individual for the purpose of securing regards for wrong which has been committed against him, and if he is successful, he is awarded money that is called as a damages or compensation or other personal reliefs. So the most important view I want to mention here that the civil case is instituted by an individual, whereas the criminal case has to be instituted by public prosecutor on behalf of the government. So, in criminal case, the penal prosecution is instituted by the public prosecutor on behalf of the government for the purpose of securing obedience of its laws by way of punishment or corrections of the law barriers. Now, as you know, as you are well versed, that nature of punishment in criminal laws are quite coercive. It is a penalty, it is imprisonment. Purpose of instituting civil and criminal case is a different. Therefore, evidentiary rules applicable on those two cases may be different. I have tried to narrate most important 10 points of difference in civil and criminal proceedings. Have a look. Number 1. The rule of evidence may be related with the consent of the parties and with the order of the court in civil proceedings. Now, as I told you earlier, that it is initiated by an individual and therefore the consent of the parties is important. Sometimes the rights may be waived by an individual. He don't want to start any kind of civil proceeding in the court, because if he starts or if he initiates civil proceedings in the court, he will have to produce all the documents along with the evidences. But the rule of evidence cannot be relaxed in criminal proceedings. That's very important. Nowadays, there is a separate branch due to the changed circumstances of science and technology, which is known as forensic law of medical jurisprudence. That's why medical evidence, forensic evidence, scientific evidence plays a very pivotal role in criminal proceedings. Number two, the provisions relating to confessions, dying declarations, and competency of witnesses are less peculiar in civil proceedings, perhaps irrelevant in civil proceedings. As you know, confession, dying declaration, and competency of witnesses, which are not relevant in civil proceedings, or it has a very limited scope. But provisions relating to confession, dying declaration, and competency of witnesses are more relevant, important, and peculiar in criminal proceedings. As you can see, what is trial in criminal procedure code? An evidence produced before the court shall be relevant, shall be admissible, And if it is corroborated in accordance with the fact in issue, it becomes the proof. And once it becomes a proof, it is treated as an evidence. Now, third point, it is the duty of the parties to place their case before the court. Now, everything has to be done by an individual. Of course, needless to say that individual will have to hire an advocate because civil procedure code is like a thorough mathematics. An individual cannot himself initiate main pleadings, main petition, affidavit, compliance of all the documents. But if he hires an advocate will have to produce the case of on behalf of the individual. But if there is a crime, if there is a criminal case, it is the duty of the court to bring all relevant evidence on record and to produce before the court. For example, any crime has occurred. Police is investigating on the matter. They are collecting evidences, and all evidences on behalf of the police is being produced by the public prosecutor before the court in criminal trial. The doctrine of estoppel is applicable in civil cases only. Doctrine of estoppel, as you know, when one person says the truth, he cannot later on deny what he has stated earlier. But the doctrine of estoppel is not applicable, but we can't say so. It has a very limited application in criminal cases. Number 5. Evidence that is relevant and probative of facts which needs to be proved in the courts will generally be admissible. There is no mandatory rules requiring exclusion of evidence in civil cases, and the principle of fair trials is not important in civil cases. Friends, we will study the principle of fair trial in CRPC in detail, but that there is a mandatory rule that few evidences has to be excluded, which is happening in criminal cases, because evidences which are relevant only can be made admissible by the court. Now the court has a discretion which evidences to be admitted and which evidences to be excluded. And now the principle of fair trial in criminal proceeding is a fundamental principle. As you can see, the presumption behind fair trial that both the parties are treated equal. Every person shall be given an opportunity to prove his innocence. No person shall be presumed guilty unless and until his guilt is proved or his guilt is established beyond reasonable doubts. And the burden of proof which is on the shoulders of public prosecutor never shifts in criminal cases. Number 6. Standard of proof. The rule relating to standard of proof determines how much proof is required for a party to pursue the court is not a heavier like a criminal cases. Like there are no standard or there is no any strictness. Even the evidences which are relevant only, so that will be part of the court to decide whether this evidence is to be accepted or not. But appropriate standard of proof that will have to be satisfied in criminal cases. Now, as you can see, everywhere in the Evidence Act is given that this type of evidence is only relevant, it is not admissible. Or there are some evidences which are admissible but which are not relevant. So that proof of standard is expressly mentioned in Indian Evidence Act, but which is not applicable in civil cases. Now the most important is here the principle of beyond reasonable doubts. Standard is not mandated in civil cases. The principle that an accused is presumed to be innocent until his guilt is proved has no application in civil cases. Now, as I told you, beyond reasonable doubts. This is a game of thrones. You produce the evidence before the court of law, then the court of law will decide the matter in your favor. For example, there is a dispute regarding ownership of any particular property, and if any person provides title certificate given by an eminent advocate. So the picture will be very clear that the person will be owner of the property. That's why, needless to state to my senior advocates or my colleagues, that advocates are very cautious while issuing title certificate. It is very risky. I have seen instances where few advocates were searched and seized their license to practice in the court because of issuing of mis- mistaken title certificates. That's why one idea is generated that they are not issuing title certificate, they are issuing opinion in title. And you see, opinion is relevant only. It may not be admissible. Advocate can defend himself. That is my opinion. That is my opinion based on the basis of my documents. That is not my firm statement to be admitted by the court. The principle of beyond reasonable doubt is the basic principles of criminal law. The presumption of innocence is a basic principle of criminal trial, that an accused shall be presumed to be innocent until his guilt is proved beyond reasonable doubt by the prosecution, as we are acquisitorial legal system. No person is guilty unless and until his innocence is proved by trial court. Especially, the burden is shifted on the shoulders of public prosecutor. Now, as you know, criminal proceeding, that once FIR is registered, that means the procedure is set into the motion. An accused person has to be produced before the court within 24 hours. If his offense is bailable, he will get the bail as a matter of statutory right. Or if it is not bailable, then there will be judicial custody or there will be police custody. Now, next, number 8. Less importance is attached to the principle of orality in civil proceeding, resulting in far greater reliance upon the admission of the evidence in the documentary form. This is very important, friends. Oral statements are having a very less value in a civil proceedings. Means you don't make any comment, don't make any statement. You directly show the documentary evidence to the authority that this is a question regarding your property. A person says that he is the landlord and he says that you are a tenant and he want to evict you. So the tenant can simply produce the document that I have rent agreement with me. That is a 5 years rent agreement with me, and landlord cannot evict me. Of course, in exceptional circumstances it is possible, but if the tenant produced before the court properly registered agreement, that will be very strong evidence from his side. Because in civil cases, most of the claims are raised from contractual, monetary, or proprietary relationship, which could mostly prove by adducing documentary evidence. Now, everything depends upon the evidence. As I told you, you must have seen ऑपरेशन ऑफ लॉ बाय ऑपरेशन ऑफ लॉ. अगर कुछ लोग चेस खेलते हो तो आपको पता होगा, जो छोटा सा सैनिक होता है, हम उसे प्यादा बोलते हैं. अगर वो सामने वाले के एंड में जाए, सामने वाले के लास्ट कॉर्नर में जाए, तो उसका वजीर बन जाता है. उसी तरह कुछ चीज़ें होती है बाय ऑपरेशन ऑफ लॉ. आई विल गिव एन एग्जाम्पल. If a person is living in any particular property for more than 12 years without any objection, without any notice, so that person can get the ownership, his possession can be converted into ownership. If any person is cultivating any land for more than 20 years, he become owner of that property instead of being tenant of that property. And friends, please pardon me if my information is not correct, but if any couple is living in relationship for more than 6 months, they are treated like a husband and wife, and their child can get all the benefits of a legitimate child. This is called as by operation of law. Due to the various nature of ways committing crime, the public prosecutor mostly proves his allegations by providing an expert and lay witnesses. The crime which can be proved by documentary evidence is a less number, since there are being committed in a more sophisticated way. Means there can be forensic evidences, DNA analysis, as you must have heard, DNA test of any accused person, confession given by any accused person, admission given by any accused person, dying declaration of any accused person are more relevant in Indian Evidence Act. And as civil laws are concerned, it has lesser value. Proof of admission. The defendant shall deny each and every fact alleged by the statement of claim specifically made. Every allegation of fact in the statement of claim, if not denied specifically or by necessary implication, are stated to be not to be admitted, and the court shall give on such admitted facts. Now, as you know, this is the normal practice for an advocate. Advocate insists on the client that you deny each and every fact when we are submitting our written statements and when there is a cross examination. You just deny each and every fact. While in criminal cases where the accused says nothing in answer to the charge, a plea of the not guilty shall be entered. Because as we are well versed with Article 22 of Indian constitutional law, even he says no comments, if he is reluctant, if he don't want to give an answer of the questions, he cannot be compelled, especially under the doctrine of self-incrimination. This means the silence of the accused does not amount to an admission. His silence cannot be interpreted. Moreover, failure to cross-examination on a particular point does not constitute an admission of the truth of the point by the opposite party. Now, PP cannot say, or a defense counsel cannot say, look, he's not answering my questions, that's why he's going to admit his guilt. It is not, sorry, it is not so. The Constitution has given him a freedom. He has a fundamental right that if he don't want to answer, he can't answer. For example, in matrimonial cases, in a divorce cases, especially in maintenance cases, wife cannot be compelled by the court to disclose her income. Now that is the duty of husband to produce all the evidences to save himself from a liability to pay maintenance to his wife. Now the last thing, that is the judicial admission. Judicial admissions are conclusive in civil cases, where a parties formally admit the truth of a fact in issue. In the case, the fact cases to be in a dispute between the parties, and such an evidence to prove the fact will be ruled as inadmissible on the ground that it is relevant. The court is under obligation to give the judgment based on such admissions without requiring the production of additional evidences. Now, as you know, if you are having a very strong evidence, friends, I want to give an example which is not strictly applicable. If you are a student of any college, it is relevant you are a student of any college. Everybody knows. Faculty knows, your friends knows, everybody knows. But unless and until you have an admit card, you cannot enter in examination hall. It is a technical thing, but which is not very strictly observed in our Indian law colleges or any other colleges. In the criminal cases, judicial admissions are not conclusive. When accused admits without reservations any ingredients in the offence charged, the court shall enter in plea of it guilty and may forthwith convict accused. For example, under section 24 of confession, any person is not under obligation, even magistrate instruct him, look, nobody is pressurizing you to confess. And apart from their statements, any accused says that, no, I am not forced, I am not compelled, but I want to make a confession. Magistrate will immediately make a confession memo and immediately convict that person. As you can remember, in Indira Gandhi assassination case, this happened with Jinda and Sukha, that they directly gave confession in the court. However, the court may require the prosecution to call such evidence for prosecution as it is considered necessary and may permit the accused to call evidence. Therefore, unlike civil cases, The task for determining the conclusion of judicial admission is left to the discretion of the court. Now, the most important problem I want to mention here, that is the discretion of the judges, the discretion of the magistrate, that they can call for the additional witnesses also, they can call additional evidences also, and after their thorough scrutiny of all the evidences, they can come to the conclusion whether the accused person shall be convicted or shall be acquitted. Friends, I have tried my level best to find 10 important points regarding difference of application of Indian Evidence Act in civil and criminal proceedings. If you like my video, please like it, please share it, and please subscribe our Lex Icon channel on YouTube. This will make or this will facilitate you to get more informational videos. These videos are made purely for an academic purpose. I don't want to entertain you. This is not matter of your entertainment. I think this is matter of our responsibility. And for your kind information, this is strictly according to the prescribed syllabus of Savitribai Phule Pune University. Means I am conducting your lectures according to the syllabus which is given as under the law of evidence in your revised syllabus. So please like, share and subscribe our video if you like our video. I am Advocate Gajanan Funde. I am an assistant professor for law, commerce and management. Now I am practicing in Ahmednagar District Court. If you have any doubts, any queries, you can contact on my WhatsApp number, that is 75172 45777, or you can call me on my number, that is 78410 45777, in a reasonable hours. And my mail ID is fundegajanan@gmail.com. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for giving me an opportunity. I hope this video will be helpful for you, especially to the students who are pursuing their law. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you.